All right, welcome everybody to Paranormal Graveyard. I am your host, Christina Corsetti, and tonight Roger is not going to be with us, but I wish all to him and his wife. Tonight we're talking about Immortals, and I wanted to actually show you guys something that I've been doing. I carve cribbage boards, and I carve signs. So I was up in the attic the other night, and it's really cool. Let me show you guys what I did. I carved a paranormal graveyard sign. Let me see if I can get it up here. All right, hold on. Pause that. All right, let's see if we can get this up for you guys. Check that out, Paranormal Graveyard. I carved it myself, and I painted it, and isn't that pretty cool? I thought that was, I wanted to show you guys what I was doing. So anyway, tonight we're talking about Immortals. Let me just get this off my screen. And immorality, let's see, where are we? Hi, Meg. Tonight we're going solo, so I hope you don't get tired of seeing Haunted for 2 hours. All right, immorality is the ability to live forever or eternal life. In religious contexts, immorality is often stated to be one of the promises of God or other deities to human beings who show goodness or else follow divine law. What form an unending human life would take, or whether an immortal soul exists and possesses immorality, has been a major point of focus of religion, as well as the subject of speculation, fantasy, and debate. Immorality is a popular subject in fiction, as it explores humanity's deep-seated fears and comprehension of its own morality. Immortal beings and species abound in fiction, especially fantasy fiction, and the meaning of immortal tends to vary. Hi, Jerry. Glad you make it. Just so you know, I do have the chat on another computer, so I will be able to answer your questions throughout the show. So if you have any, please feel free. Mythological beings are often used in modern fiction as characters, as a plot device, or even just as window dressings. Such beings are often either immortal or associated with immorality. Since immorality is seen as a desire of humanity, themes involving immorality often explore the disadvantages as well as the advantages of such a trait. Sometimes immorality is used as a punishment or a curse that might be intended to teach a lesson. It is not uncommon to find immortal characters yearning for death. The undead are the fictional people who have died and still maintain some aspects of life. In many examples, the undead are immune to aging or even heal as an accelerant rate. Dracula is one of the most famous examples of the undead. Immorality can be achieved in fiction through scientifically plausible means. Extraterrestrial life might be immortal, or it might be able to give immorality to humans. Immorality is also achieved in many examples by replacing the mortal human body by machines. So tonight, let's see, we have vampires. A vampire is a being from folklore who subsists by feeding on life essence, generally in the form of blood or of the living. In European folklore, vampires are undead beings that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhood they inhabited when they were alive. They wore shrouds and were often described as bloated and of ruddy or dark countenance, markedly different from today's gown. Now, vampire, which dates from the early 19th century, this increased level of vampire superstition in Europe led to what can only be called mass hysteria, and in some cases resulted in corpses actually being staked and people being accused of vampirism. We have zombies, is another immortal being. A zombie is a fictional undead being created through the reanimation of a human corpse. A deceased human being who has partially returned to life due to the undetermined causes. The brain retains base facilities, namely gross motor function. Its near mindless state, it grasps no remains of emotion, personality, or sensation of pain. In rare cases, some of the reanimated have flexibly performed routine activities from their past lives. The undead are incapable of fatigue and will persist at any cost. They will even crawl when their legs have been removed. Even if the head is removed from the body, it will continue to live. The only way to stop the reanimated is to destroy the brain. To prevent reanimation in the recently departed, decapitate the corpse and burn the body. The only observable action a zombie takes part in is killing living creatures, especially humans, and eating them. Many theories and speculations surround this disturbing behavior. Ghosts. A ghost is a soul or spirit of the dead human or animal that can appear to the living. Descriptions of ghosts vary widely from an invisible presence to translucent or barely visible wispy shapes to realistic lifelike visions. The kind of human or animal ghost that is actually sentient being is called an apparition. Many of these beings are restless because they do not know they have passed on due to unexpected events that ended their lives, or believe they have unfinished business to attend to. Many occupy places they frequently during life. Some do know that they are dead and may come back for reasons or revenge, or to comfort or warn a loved one of some kind of impending disaster, or to lead them to some fortune or treasure. Others just like to hang around to see what is going on with other people. The ghosts who do the same things over and over again are the ones who don't know that they are dead and are actually prisoners of their own minds. We have Banshee. A banshee is a female spirit in Irish mythology who heralds the death of a member of one of the prominent families, usually by shrieking or keening. Her name is connected to the mythology important tumuli or mounds that dot the Irish countryside. The banshee is often described as Gaelic lore as wearing red or green, usually with long beheveled hair. She can appear in a variety of forms. Perhaps most often she is seen as an ugly, frightful hag, but she can also appear as young and as beautiful if she chooses. Now, I've never seen a beautiful banshee. Well, I've never seen a banshee, but I've never heard of a beautiful banshee. The banshee would be sung by a fairy woman, having foresight. She would sing it when a family member died, even if the person had died far away and news of their death has not come yet. So that the wailing of the banshee was the first warning the household had of death. In later versions, the banshee might appear before the death and warn the family by wailing. When several banshees appear at once, it indicates the death of someone great or holy. The tales sometimes recounted that the woman, though called a fairy, was a ghost, often a Pacific murdered woman or a mother who had died in childbirth. Oh, Roger is here. If Roger's going to come on, Roger, come on in. Not sure if, I'm sure he'll pop in. Give me a second. Wants to join, please join. I didn't know he was back. Well, I hope all is well, Roger. Okay. Next we have dwarf. A dwarf is a small human-shaped being that dwells in mountains and in the earth, and is variously associated with wisdom, smithing, mining, and crafting. Dwarfs are often also described as short and ugly, although some scholars have questioned whether this is a later development stemming from comical portraits of the being. They are highly skilled craftsmen and worshippers of Thor, often in some myths. They are often depicted as being as ugly as their craftsmanship is great. They usually have magical talents, often including metallurgy. Let me go here for a minute, if you don't mind. And let me get Roger set up in case he does want to join us. Bear with me 1 second, everybody. Let me just get up in case he does want to join us. He can just come right in. Okay. Going back to where we were. A genie. A genie is another immortal being. A genie are supernatural creatures in early Arabian and later Islamic mythology and theology. A genie is thought by many to be a man who appears to grant 3 wishes if the lamp he lives in is rubbed. In fact, according to mythology, a genie is a mischievous spirit who has been imprisoned in some object. The genie hates the wizard because they seal them in lamps, silver rings, and so forth. Genies are also called jinns. Jinn are much more than demons or spirits. They are intelligent, free-willed creatures who live close in nature and are endowed with magical powers. Very much like humans, only more supernatural. Some of them are good, some are evil, and still more are somewhere in between. We can pretty much count on them being tricksters in one form or another. So as a general rule, don't go out hopping to meet a jinn. Next, we have leprechaun. A leprechaun is a type of fairy in Irish folklore. They are usually depicted as little bearded men wearing a coat and a hat who partake in mischief. They are solitary creatures who spend their time making and mending shoes and have a hidden pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. If captured by a human, they often grant 3 wishes in exchange for their freedom. The leprechaun can only be found in Ireland in rural areas away from the general public. Burrowed deep in the underground caves with entrances hidden as a rabbit hole or found in a hollow trunk of a fairy tree, they find safety away from humans who seek to capture them to be granted 3 wishes. I never knew that, actually. I didn't know that leprechauns did grant 3 wishes. I guess we learn something new every day, huh? Okay, the next immortal we have is a mermaid. A mermaid is a legendary aquatic creature with the head and upper body of a female human and the tail of a fish. Mermaids are sometimes associated with perilous events such as floods, storms, shipwrecks, and drownings. In other folk tradition, or sometimes within the same tradition, they can be benevolent or beneficial, bestowing boons or falling in love with humans. The male equivalent of a mermaid is a merman, also a familiar figure in folklore and heraldry. Although traditions about and sightings of mermen are less common than those of mermaids, they are generally assumed to coexist with their female counterparts. Now, I find that quite interesting because I never really even knew there was a male mermaid, and they're called mermans. Never mind coexisting with female counterparts. Um, all right, next we have the, forgive me here, but it's the chupa cabra. The chupa cabra. It's a goat sucker. This is another immortal being. Legendary creature in folklore of parts of the Americas, with its first sightings reported in Puerto Rico. The name comes from an animal's reported habit of attacking and drinking the blood of livestock, especially goats. Now, you'll hear a lot of these cow mutilations and stuff like that. They think that that could be one theory. If not, it was alien theory. You know what I mean? The Koopa Capra. It's a tongue twister. Um, the physical descriptions of the creature vary. It is purportedly a heavy creature the size of a small bear with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail. Eyewitness sightings have been claimed as early as 1995 in Puerto Rico and have been since reported as far as north as Maine and as far south as Chile. Even spotted outside the Americas in countries like Russia and the Philippines, but many of the reports have been disregarded and uncooperated of lacking evidence. Sightings in North Mexico and the southern United States have been verified as canids afflicted by mange. Next, we have a damper. If I'm pronouncing that right, it could be, I'm going to say it's a damper. In Balkan folklore, it's a creature that is the result of a union between a vampire and a human. It could be damp fire. Powers are similar to those of vampires, but without the usual weaknesses like the thirst of blood. In recent vampire fiction, vampire refers to any hybrid of one human and one vampire parent. They are not vampires themselves, but a half-breed of both. So, I'm just looking over, thank you, Bookworm. Chupacabra, there you go. All right, our next immortal being, we have a werewolf. A werewolf is a mythological or folkloric human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf or a theranthropic hybrid wolf-like creature, either purposely or after being placed under a curse or affliction, usually through a bite or a scratch from a werewolf. A true werewolf, according to most legends, is a human being that uncontrollably transforms into wolf during a full moon. The original werewolf curse transformed a shapeshifter wolf into a werewolf, effectively taking away the ability to control the shift, also taking away the ability to think as a human while in wolf form. Werewolves, when in wolf form, have uncontrollable rage and hunger. They are driven to kill everyone and everything they encounter. Regardless of their relationship as humans, the curse causes these wolves to lose all control of their minds, and when they wake up in human form in the morning, they don't remember anything, though they may revisit certain memories and dreams. Oh, thank you, Bookworm. I guess it's not vampire or it's a damper, it's vampire. That's how they pronounce it, vampire. Domper. Huh, that's very interesting. Because the way it's spelled is Dhampir. Huh. All these words. All right, the next one we have Grim Reaper. Death, also known as the Grim Reaper, is a common element in cultural history. As a personified force, it has been imagined in many different ways. The popular depiction of death as a skeletal figure carrying a large shank and clothed in the black cloak with the hood first arose in the 14th century of England, while the title, the Grim Reaper, is first attested in 1847. In some mythologies, the Grim Reaper causes the victim's death by coming to collect him. In turn, people in some stories try to hold on to life by avoiding death's visit, or by fending death off with bribery and tricks. We are told that the specter of death is only a psychopomp, serving to sever the last ties between the soul and the body, and to guide the deceased to the afterlife without having any control over when or how the victim dies. In many mythologies, death is personified in male form, while in others, death is perceived as female. Now, we all know Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch. That is another immortal being. It is the name given to mythological simian, ape, or humanoid-like creature that is said to inhabit the forest, mainly in the Pacific Northwest. Bigfoot is usually described as a large, hairy humanoid, bipedal humanoid. Scientists discount the existence of Bigfoot and consider it to be a combination of folklore, misidentification, and hoax, rather than living animal, because the lack of physical evidence and the large number of creatures that would necessarily to maintain a population. But how could you disclaim all those sightings, all the people that have witnessed or seen them? You know, I don't know what you guys think if Bigfoot a hoax or not, but I'm sure if we have aliens, we sure have Bigfoot. Um, the next immortal being we have is a ghoul. A ghoul is a monster or evil spirit in Arabian mythology, associated with graveyards and consuming human flesh. The longer a ghoul goes without feeding, the less human it looks. The later stages of starvation will be extremely thin and pale, with veins clearly visible through the skin, and will have long claw-like nails. Ghouls have the ability to take on the abilities and appearance any person whose bodies they have eaten. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Some ancient stories claim that ghouls can also turn into jackals, hyenas, or other animals, but so far the ghoul's ability to take on animal form remains unverified. Ghouls also tend to be slightly stronger than humans. Oh, Mary Strickland on chat says there was an old Twilight Zone episode where Robert Redford played the Angel of Death. Oh, I'll have to check that out because I love the Grim Reaper, so that's pretty cool. The next immortal being we have is gargoyle. A gargoyle is a carved or formed gross snake with a spout designed to convey water from the roof and away from the side of the building, thereby preventing rainwater from running down masonry walls and eroding the mortar between. Architects often use multiple gargoyles on buildings to divide the flow of rainwater off the roof to minimize the potential damage from a rainstorm. A trough is cut in the back of the gargoyle, and rainwater typically extends through the open mouth. Gargoyles are usually an elongated, fantastic animal because the length of the gargoyle determines how far water is thrown from the wall. When Gothic flying buttresses are used, aquatics were sometimes cut into the buttress to divert water on the aisle walls. All right, we have a gnome. A gnome is a spirit in Renaissance magic and alchemy. Its characteristics have been reinterpreted to suit the needs of various storytellers, but it is typically said to be a small humanoid that lives underground. Originally, gnomes were thought to provide protection, especially of buried treasures and minerals in the ground. They are still used today to watch over crops and livestock, often tucked into the rafters of a barn or placed in the garden. A garden gnome adds a bit of whimsy and a connection to the odd world, where farmers believed the good luck charm could help their field yield more produce and protect them from thieves, pests, or other problems. The mythical gnomes in history were thought to live underground, and their name is thought to derive from the Latin word of the early dweller. They were popular in German fairy tales and were often described as old men who guarded treasure. Well, if you think, Mary, if you think gnomes are nasty little things, we also have a goblin. A goblin is a legendary evil, a mischief, gross teeth, dwarf-like demon or monster. They are described as various, sometimes conflicting abilities, temperaments, and appearances depending on the story or country of origin. And in some cases, goblins are little creatures related to the brownie and gnome. They are usually small, sometimes only a few inches tall, sometimes the size of a dwarf, and have magical abilities. They are greedy, especially for gold and jewelry. Goblins often get depicted as being evil creatures who often want to cause harm and mischief. Well, like any creature, goblins enjoy a little mischief if it does not make them evil. Goblins are not evil and are not greedy. They love the simple things in life and often take too much joy in the smaller things. They love being in the woods and away from humans. They are often called caretakers of forests and help things grow from small flowers to large trees. They also can be blamed for moving rocks from the forest floor so the grass underneath can get the light it needs. Goblins will often help someone if they were to get lost in the forest or should they. The goblin will often help the person with the injuries or help them find a way out of the forest. They often will be seen but will move things in place to help someone find their way out. Goblins are rarely seen, but they love to help. They get little credit because people always assume the worst is a goblin. They also have known to be seen where wild animals gather and have been known to help animals of all shapes and sizes. Now that takes us to the troll. The troll is a supernatural being in Norse mythology and Scandinavian folklore. Being described as trolls dwell in isolated rocks, mountains, or caves, live together in small family units, and are rarely helpful to human beings. Trolls become beings in their own right when they live far from human habitation and not Christianized, and are considered dangerous to human beings. Depending upon the region from which accounts of trolls stems, their appearance varies greatly. Trolls may be ugly and slow-witted or look to behave exactly like human beings, with particularly grotesque characteristics about them. Like trolls are sometimes associated with particular landmarks, which at times may be explained as formed from a troll exposed to sunlight. Excuse me. I always got them confused, Mary. I like the trolls, the goblins, the gnomes. You know, you always think they're one of each, but Roger, I know. Ask Michael J. Fox about gnomes if you ever watched The Frighteners. I never caught The Frighteners. I'll have to watch that movie, and I know I should have seen that, but I never got to. All right, the next being we have is a hellhound. A hellhound is a supernatural dog in folklore. A wide variety of ominous or hellish supernatural dogs occur in mythologies around the world. Similar to often seen dragons, features that have been attributed to hellhounds include mangled black fur, glowing red eyes, super strength or speed, ghostly or phantom characteristics, and a foul odor. Certain European legends state that if someone stares into a hellhound's eyes twice or more, that person will surely die. In cultures that associate the afterlife with fire, hellhounds may have fire-based abilities and appearance. They often assign the guard the entrance to the world of the dead, such as graveyards and burial grounds, or undertake other duties related to the afterlife or the supernatural, such as hunting lost souls, or guarding a supernatural treasure. In European legends, seeing a hellhound or hearing a howl may be an omen or even a cause of death. They are said to be protectors of the supernatural, guarding the sacredcy of supernatural creatures or beings from the world. Now we have the boogeyman. Ooh, the boogeyman is a common allusion to the mythical creature in many cultures used by the adults to frighten children into good behavior. This monster has no specific appearance, and contraceptions about it can vary drastically from household to household within the same community. In many cases, he has no set appearance in the mind of an adult or child, but is simply a non-specific embodiment of terror. Parents may tell their children that if they misbehave, the boogeyman will come and get them. Boogeyman may target a specific mischief. For instance, a boogeyman that punishes children who suck their thumbs or general misbehavior, depending upon what purpose needs serving. In some cases, the boogeyman is a nickname for the devil. Boogeyman tale vary from region. The boogeyman is usually a masculine entity, but can be any gender. Now that I didn't know. I didn't know a boogeyman could be a female. Next, we have a fairy. A fairy is a type of mythical being or legendary creature in European folklore, a form of a spirit often described as metaphysical, supernatural, or preternatural. Fairies are generally described as human in appearance and having magical powers. Diminutive fairies of one kind or another have been reported for centuries, but alongside the human-sized beings. These have been depicted as ranging in size from very tiny up to the size of a human child. Now, I didn't know a fairy could be the size of a human child, so I guess we're learning a lot today. Now, the elf. The elf is another immortal being. An elf is a type of supernatural being in Germanic mythology and folklore. Elves seem generally to have been thought of as a group of beings with magical powers and supernatural beauty. Ambivalent towards everyday people and capable of either helping or hindering them. Elves are prominently associated with sexual threats, seducing people and causing them harm. The elves also have relations with humans. Elves commonly cause human illnesses, but they also have the power to heal them and seem specifically or especially willing to do so if sacrifices are offered to them. Humans and elves can interbreed and produce half humans, half elven children. That I didn't know. Who often have the appearance of humans but possess extraordinary, intuitive, and magical powers. Humans can, apparently become elves after death, and there was considerable overlap between the worship of human ancestors and the worship of elves. Now, let's see here. Okay. All right, next we have dragon. A dragon is a legendary creature, typically scaled, fire-spewing, with serpentine, reptilian, and avian traits that features in the myths of many cultures. There are two distinct cultural traditions of dragons. You have the European dragons, derived from European folklore traditions, and ultimately related to Balkans and Western Asian mythologies. Most are depicted as reptilian creatures with animal-level intelligence, 4 legs, and attached set of wings. You have the Chinese dragons, with counterparts in Japan, namely the Japanese dragon, Korea, and other East Asian countries. Most are depicted as serpentine creatures with above-average intelligence, 4 legs, and they're wingless. Dragons are generally evil and destructive. Now, first off, I didn't know they had detachable wings, and second off, I didn't know they came wingless, so I think that's pretty cool. All right, our next immortal being we have is the Cyclops. A Cyclops in Greek mythology, based on their description, they were a wide race of gigantic growth, similar in nature to the earthborn giants, and had a single eye in the middle of their forehead. One may identify another striking instance of the manner in which the Greeks personified the power of nature, which they saw in active operation around them. They observed the fire, rock, and ash pouring from Etna and other volcanic mountains with awe and astonishment, and with their vivacious imagination found an explanation to the mystery. The god of fire must be busy at work with his men in the depths of the earth, and the mighty flames coming from the depths of the earth must be a result of this. According to the legend, the Cyclops has only one eye because they traded one eye in order to see the future. The only future they will be able to learn after that was the day of their death. That's pretty cool. We have Medusa. Medusa, in Greek mythology, Medusa was a monster, A gorgon, generally described as a winged human female with a hideous face and living with venomous snakes in the place of hair. Gazers of her face would turn to stone. She was originally a golden-haired, fair maiden who, as a priestess of Athena, was devoted to life of celibacy. However, after being wooed by Poseidon and falling for him, she forgot her vows and married him. For this offense, she was punished by the goddess in the most terrible manner. Every wavy lock of her beautiful hair that charmed her husband was changed to a venomous snake. Her once gentle, love-inspiring eyes turned into bloodshot, furious orbs, which excited fear and disgust in the minds of the onlooker. While her former roseate hue and milk-white skin assumed a loathsome greenish tinge. Seeing herself transformed into such a repulsive creature, Medusa fled her home, never to return. Wandering about, abhorred, dreaded, shunned by the rest of the world, she turned into the character worthy of her outer appearance. In her despair, she fled to Africa, where, while wandering restlessly from place to place, young snakes dropped from her hair. That is how, according to the ancient Greeks, Africa became a hotbed of venomous reptiles. With the curse of Athena upon her, she turned into stone whoever she gazed upon, till at last, after a life of nameless misery, deliverance came to her in the shape of death as the hands of Perseus. All right, next we have the Dullahan. A Dullahan is a headless rider, usually on a black horse who carry his or her head under one arm. Usually the Dullahan is male, but there are some female versions. The head and the mouth is usually a hideous grin that touches both sides of the head. Its eyes are constantly moving about and can be seen across the countryside even the darkest nights. The flesh of the head is said to have the color and consistency of moldy cheese. Nice. The Dullahan uses the spine of a human corpse for a whip. That's awesome. And its wagon is adorned with funeral objects, such as candles in the skull to light the way. The spokes of the wheels are made from thigh bones. The wagon's covering made from a worm-chewed pall or dried human skin. That's so cool. When the Dullahan stops riding, that is where the person is due to die. The Dullahan calls out the person's name, at which point the person immediately perishes. There is no way to bar the road against the Dullahan. All the locks and gates open to them when they approach. They do not appreciate being watched while on their errands, throwing a basin of blood on those who dare to do so, often a mark that they were among next to die, or even the watcher's eye with their whips. They are frightened of gold, and a single gold pin can drive a Dullahan away. Now, Mary, I'm not sure if the Sleepy Hollow Tale, if that's a Dullahan, or if that would be the Headless Horseman, or if they're the same thing. That's a good question. I'm not sure if it's the same thing or not. It could be. You know what I mean? I'm sure it might be. Just a different name, maybe. But I think that's pretty cool. Oh, excuse me. All right, next we have the Skinwalker. In Navajo culture, the Skinwalker is a type of witch who has the ability to turn into an animal or disguise themselves as an animal. Many Navajos believe firmly in the existence of skinwalkers and refuse to discuss them publicly or for fear of retribution. They believe skinwalkers walk freely among the tribe and secretly transform under the cover of night. To become a skinwalker requires the most evil of deeds, the killing of a close family member. They literally become humans who have acquired immense supernatural power, including the ability to transform into animals and other people. According to the Navajo Skinwalker legend, these evil witches are typically seen in the form of a coyote, owl, fox, wolf, or crow. Although they do not have the ability to turn in any animal they choose, because it is believed that skinwalkers wear the skin of the animals they transform into, it is considered taboo to wear the pelt of any animal. In fact, the Navajos are only known to wear two hides, sheepskin and buckskin, both of which only used for ceremonial purposes. Those who have talked to of their encounters with these evil beings describe a number of ways in which a skinwalker will try to inflict harm. Some describe hearing knocks on the window or bangs on the wall. Others have spotted an animal-like figure peering in through a window. According to the Navajo skinwalker legends, they are seldom caught. Those who do not track a skinwalker and learn of their true identity must pronounce the name of the evil one in full. Once this happens, the skinwalker will get sick or die for the wrongs they have inflicted against others. The next immortal being we have is the devil. Now, we all know who the devil is, and we can get pretty deep in information. So the only thing I will say about the devil is Christianity identifies the devil as Satan, with the serpent who tempted Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, and describes him as a fallen angel who terrorizes the world through evil. It is antithesis of truth and shall be condemned, together with the fallen angel who follow him to eternal fire at the last judgment. That's all I'll say. Thank you, Roger. It is hard to do a show by yourself, but I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, our next immortal being we have is a unicorn. A unicorn is a legendary creature who has been described since antiquity. I'm sorry, I'm cracking myself up. As a beast with a large pointed spiraling horn projected from its forehead. The unicorn is often depicted as a white horse-like or goat-like animal with a long horn and cloven hooves, sometimes a goat's beard. In the Middle Ages and Renaissance, it was commonly described as an extremely wild woodland creature, a symbol of purity and grace, which could be only captured by a virgin. In the encyclopedias, its horn was said to have the power to render poisoned water portable and to heal sickness. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Next, we have a phoenix. A phoenix in Greek mythology, a phoenix is a long-lived bird that is regenerated or reborn. Associated with the sun, a phoenix obtains new life by arising from the ashes of its predecessor. According in some sources, the phoenix dies in a show of flames and combustion. Although there are other sources that claim the legendary bird dies and simply decomposes before being born again, according to some texts, the phoenix could live over 1,400 years before rebirth. Oh, wow. Hey, Roger, I know you're listening. I hope all is well, by the way. I only have one left, and that is an angel. I guess I didn't get 2 hours worth of a show, but 45 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. I thought I had a long list for everybody, but I guess we're on the last one. So I guess it's going to be a short show tonight, but it's okay. We have Angel. Angel is a spiritual being superior to humans in power and intelligence. Angels are typically described as benevolent, dreadful, and endowed with wisdom and knowledge of earthly events, but not infallible, for they strive with each other, and God has to make peace between them. Most of them serve another as intermediaries between heaven and earth, or as guardian spirits. An angel is also used figuratively to refer to messengers and harbingers, and to people who possess high qualities of goodness, purity, selflessness, intelligence, and beauty. So I apologize, everybody, for the short show. I thought that I had a lot more than what I did, but those are immortal beings. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, next week we have elementals. So I will try to get more information for next week's show. And That's next Monday, 8 o'clock with the Paranormal Graveyard. We have Elementals, and this Thursday we have Beyond the Grave Radio, and we have Chris Dowgan with all about Salem and the Salem Underground Tunnels. So I'm sure Roger will have, if he's not going to be, he might have ghostly stories on, and will have Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio. We will keep everyone informed, keep everyone on Facebook informed, and I hope everyone has a good night, and we will see you all next week. Goodbye, everybody.